So good day, everyone. Before we start this presentation, please make sure your audio volume is properly adjusted. So we know you can hear us clearly, please click on the hand icon on the control panel on the upper right side of your screen. Thank you. If you are experiencing any audio difficulties, please refer to the audio pane also located on the upper right side of your screen. As an audio option, you may select phone call. Dial-in instructions will then pop up so you can follow the presentation through your phone. If you would like to customize your view of GoToWebinar, please refer to the viewer menu that is located above the panel's webcams. The default is set to view everyone's webcams. You can customize this to display only the current speaker's webcam or hide webcams altogether. You can also adjust the zoom on your screen to make objects larger or smaller. Finally, if you need further technical assistance, please type your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. Now, over to you, Jennifer, Renee.
Thank you, Luc. Welcome to the second annual WICC Alberta Virtual Breakfast. We are so excited to host you once again at our breakfast event. While restrictions for in-person gatherings have started to lift, our board decided to keep the breakfast virtual again this year. But with the success of our Hooray for the Holidays event in December, we are hoping we can plan another in-person event soon, so stay tuned. That said, we are thrilled to have you all join us for breakfast and to learn more about WICC Alberta and the action initiative that we have been supporting. Once again, Renee McQueen and myself, Jennifer Davis, will be co-hosting today's event, and I couldn't be happier to sit next to Renee at the speaker chair again. Renee, I assume you've got your coffee pot sitting next to you again?
I sure do, and a large cup ready to go.
We would like to start by introducing ourselves. Renee McQueen has been in the industry for 24 years, with 19 of those years being at Intact Insurance. She has been a longtime supporter of WICC Alberta through Intact Insurance's Hooray, Hooray, the 1st of May events. And a few years back, she joined our board. I am so happy to have her next to me, well, virtually next to me, to host today's event.
Thanks, Jen. Jennifer Davis has been in the industry for 21 years, with all of those at Marsh, both in Toronto and Calgary. She initially joined the board again to fill Jennifer Adams' role while she was on maternity leave, and she stayed on ever since. She's primarily responsible for organizing the WICC Alberta Gold Flame Awards luncheon since 2014. We are again this year going to be promoting the launch of Hooray Hooray for the 1st of May. As mentioned last year, this campaign was Alberta born 21 years ago by our founding board members. While we're hoping to have more of an in-person campaign, as Jen mentioned, we decided today to keep our breakfast virtual yet again, but this doesn't mean that we cannot fundraise. With hybrid return to work, we can be adaptive in our approaches, reinvent how we fundraise, and we have so many new online tools available to us. But we can also start to continue with our grassroots fundraising. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to start winning some 50-50s again. So again, as we emerge from the pandemic, we encourage you all to embrace Hooray Hooray, hold a fundraiser to support WICC Alberta throughout the month of May. And as we said last year, no campaign is too big or too small. Every dollar counts. Today's speakers will show you just how important your donation dollars are. Also this year, we've opened up the chat box for questions during today's session. Just use the chat that you can see on your screen if you have any questions or comments that you would like to share with us or any of the panelists today. I also want to give a quick shout out and a big shout out to Canadian Underwriter. Thank you so much for hosting us today and supporting us with all of our technology from registration to the virtual platform that we're on today. Thank you so much.
And thank you again, Marsh Canada, for your generous donation of $3,500 and for your continued support by allowing WICC Alberta to tap into our fabulous graphics resources, who have once again done the design on today's presentation and at our previous WICC Alberta events.
And to Intact, I am so proud to be part of this company, and I'm always humbled by the support. No matter how many times I ask, Intact always comes to the table when WICC Alberta is involved.
Today we will be talking about WICC Alberta and our upcoming events that we have planned throughout the rest of the year in support of WICC Alberta. However, this morning we will be focusing our time on Dr. Mahoney and the Action Initiative once again. WICC Alberta has been directing all our funds to this important research group, and we are excited for everyone to get an update on their research. And in case you haven't already done so, we encourage you to visit our donations page, as it is still open for donations. Just like last year, you can search WICC Alberta Breakfast in your browser, and you should find our page. Press the donate button once you get there, and make sure to select Alberta as your province. In addition, we have a special guest speaker with us today. Milan Heck is a remarkable young woman who is a biomedical sciences student going into the final year of her degree at the University of Calgary this fall. Outside of her program, she has been working in an immunology lab at the Snyder Institute for Chronic Diseases at the university. She will be continuing her work there over this summer and is part of her thesis course for the last year of her program. Her own cancer journey has brought her to this point, and she will share her story with us during today's presentation.
And now let's reintroduce the WICC Alberta board. Jen Davis from Marsh, Canada, board member for the last 8 years, chair of the Gold Flame Awards Luncheon, and my wonderful co-chair for today's event. Jen Adams from Lloyd SAD, board member for over 15 years, and she's a director and the treasurer for our board.
Rosetta Bilodeau from Rogers Insurance, board member for over 10 years, and has been the driving force for our very successful Christmas Wishes for WICC campaign, as well as other fundraising events. Jessica Ringness from Northbridge has been on the board for the past 3 years. Jessica is our board member that makes sure that your LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook feeds are full of our WICC Alberta events and news. If you have not liked or followed us on any of these platforms, please take a minute today to find us and learn more about how WICC Alberta is supporting cancer research.
Toby Thibodeau from Origin and Cause has been a board member for 9 years and has taken the lead for the Relay for Life event. We'll have more information on this great event shortly as well. And Shannon McMurtry from Intact Insurance is our champion liaison. If you're wondering what a champion for WICC Alberta does, we'll tell you about that shortly.
Dan Holinda supports the Canadian Cancer Society and serves on our board as a liaison from the CCS. He keeps us posted on all the upcoming events, as well as all the great news from the doctors that you will hear about shortly. And lastly, we have my lovely co-chair today, Renee McQueen. She has been on the board for just over 3 years and is the secretary for our board.
And we're going to take a few minutes to recognize our newest board members as well. It's been challenging enough to balance our work and personal lives over the past couple of years. So we wanted to give a special shout out to our 2 newest board members who decided to join the WICC Alberta board in the midst of a full pandemic.
Jana Lee is a senior underwriter at AXA XL and brings with her previous board experience from industry associations such as SARAMS. We've appreciated Jana's thoughtful contributions as to how to redefine our WICC events and fundraising experience. Jana is also providing support on the upcoming Relay for Life event.
And Evan Shepherdson is a personal lines manager with Peace Hills Insurance. A little bit of a personal story, but she's had years of experience on other boards, both industry and charity focused, and she's been in the industry for 42 years. She also has been a personal mentor and friend of mine for almost 20 years. And I always joke and tell her that she was the first person to really turn me down for a job. But I've realized as I have more years behind me that it's also one of the most impactful moments of my life. And it's funny how that happens. And with a tenure like Evan's, I'm sure many of you have crossed paths with her as well. And be ready for her to reach out to you on behalf of WICC.
Are you interested in becoming a WICC Alberta board member? With the support of Dan Holinda, we've recently undergone an exciting strategic review of our board structure to better define our roles and responsibilities on our board. So this is a great time to get involved. We are refreshed and looking for more fresh faces for the board. Last year, Renee spoke about how she became a WICC Alberta board member, and I thought this year I would share my story. For years, I had attended the WICC Alberta Gold Flame Awards luncheon and was always so impressed by the event and the impact that WICC Alberta made by supporting cancer research and equipment needs here in Alberta, and all done by volunteers. When Jen Adams went on maternity leave with her first child, I offered to take over her role while she was away. When she returned, I was fully ingrained on the board and enjoyed the opportunity to put my creative talents to the test on the Gold Flame Awards luncheon. Since then, I've worked on the Gold Flame Awards luncheon and got to meet notable Calgarians such as Brett the Hitman Hart, Brett Wilson, and Darcy Holston, and had the opportunity to meet numerous cancer survivors, volunteers, and researchers, and see the impact of their work in our community. It is truly inspiring. So once again, we ask you today, are you wanting to drive change and make a difference to support the cause? Do you want to build your network and expand your contacts? Be a part of influencing the support for the cause. We are looking for support from dedicated people to help in numerous roles. So please reach out to Jen Adams for more information.
And we know that many of you have missed hearing our testimonial speakers in the past couple of years. So we thought that it would be a great opportunity for us to check in today with a couple of our previous speakers to hear how they're doing. The testimonial speakers are a first-hand account of how your donations to WICC Alberta and projects like Dr. Mahoney's Action Initiative make an impact in the life of a cancer patient. Before we get into our full presentation, let's hear from Michael Mancini and hear how he's doing.
Good morning, I'm Rosetta Bilodeau and I'm with the WICC board, and I'm here today with my sister Julie Mancini and my nephew Michael Mancini. Hi. If you remember, Michael and Julie were presenting at one of our luncheons a few years back, and we thought it would be really nice to have an update from them and let you know where their journey has taken them and what they're up to these days. Just to give you a little bit of a background and history, Michael was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 10 months old. Following diagnosis, he has undergone chemo, radiation, and ended up having actually a bone marrow transplant. But at the age of 7, he was declared cancer-free, so that's fantastic. But that's not where the journey ends for Michael. He's had quite an extensive list of surgeries following his cancer-free diagnosis. But we're not here to talk about the sad stuff. We're here to talk about really good stuff. So fast forward 12 years and here we are. Michael's 19 years old today and starting to get on with his life. So thanks, Michael, for agreeing to do this for us. I know it's a little nerve-wracking, but I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So why don't we tell everybody what you've been up to in the last couple of years?
I just finished, or I graduated high school.
Yeah.
I studied culinary arts. I just finished my first year effective Tuesday.
Nice.
I got a scholarship towards it as well from
Cool.
the Kids Cancer Care Foundation.
That's amazing.
I'm also been working. I'm not at school, I'm always working. I don't really have much time to do anything else.
Where are you working? Why don't you tell us?
Boston Pizza and the Cactus Club.
Cool. And what do you do at the Boston Pizza?
I'm backline and dish.
Okay.
With backline is like I build the pizzas and everything like that.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And which Boston Pizza are you working at? Okay. And now you just said that you got a new job at Cactus Club. So which Cactus Club are you at?
Down on Stevens Ave.
And what will you be doing there specifically?
Line cook.
Line cook. Okay, that's awesome. So that's fantastic. Really cool to hear about the Kids Cancer Care sponsorship and a scholarship that he has gotten. So, I mean, Michael's been very much involved with the Kids Cancer Care throughout his year. And if I remember correctly, you said that something has been going on with the Kids Cancer Care.
Yes, I actually got invited to speak to the new upcoming applicants for the scholarship.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good job. Good for you, Michael.
Thank you.
Very proud of you.
Thank
So
you.
good. So tell us a little bit about what you like to do for fun.
When I'm not at work, because I don't really have much free time anymore, I'm hanging out with friends or playing video games.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Well,
sleep.
And sleep.
Sleep
Yes.
is important.
Michael likes to sleep. We all know that, right? Anyway, I really want to thank you again for being here with us today and sharing a little bit about your journey. I know it's not been an easy one for you. And I mean, this is nerve-wracking talking in front of a camera and having people hear your story or whatever. So, but I really appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Love you, bud.
Love you too.
And up next, we'll have my sister Julie Mancini coming.
Before we start talking about all the exciting events scheduled for 2022, let's review how we did in 2021. Despite still working under pandemic conditions where we couldn't hold our usual slate of in-person events, we managed to raise over $120,000. And so our donation to Dr. Mahoney and the Action Initiative for 2022 is $110,000, which is amazing. So thank you. We also underwent a full rebranding of the WICC logo at a national level and have a refreshed new logo as we forge forward for the cause. Thanks to your support for the inaugural breakfast webinar, we raised an amazing $20,000. So here is the new logo that I think some of you might have seen at our Hooray for the Holidays event. WICC Alberta also exceeded our goal of $7,000 and raised $7,891 at Relay for Life in 2021. Our team was also awarded the Corporate Spirit Team Award from CCS for the WICC Alberta Mountaineers, and you'll be able to learn more information about how you can join this team for the 2022 event.
And as the world was opening up in September of last year, our supporters at the Insurance Professionals of Calgary came out in full force to spend the day golfing for a cause. Held on September 8th, it was the first sold-out tournament for the IPC. Funds were raised through many means, and at the end of the tournament, $3,145 was donated to our cause. If your company is looking to sponsor any golf tournaments, there's an opportunity to raise funds for WICC. Of course, we know that there's other charities of choice, but we're always happy to be affiliated with your companies. And just a quick little look at how excited Donna Brown was to win the 50-50 at the tournament and how much fun I was having as she donated so much of it back to the cause. Thanks, Donna.
WICC Alberta always stands out compared to the other WICC chapters at Giving Tuesday. And in 2021, we raised $1,345, which is actually the largest per capita donation amongst all the chapters. Finally, your generosity during the holiday season was overwhelming once again, and we reached our 30,000 goal for the Christmas Wishes for WICC campaign. Given the uncertainty that we've all faced the past couple of years, this support is truly remarkable, and we cannot thank you enough for your continued support of WICC Alberta. And next, we would like to pass it over to Dr. Douglas Mahoney to give us an update on the Action Initiative. And as you'll recall, we've had Dr. Mahoney speak at the last few events, but as an update, he is a translational scientist at the Charbonneau Cancer Institute and Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute at the Cummings School of Medicine. Over the past 15 years, he has made important contributions to the development of 2 cancer immunotherapies that are now being tested in human clinical trials. Currently, his lab focuses on understanding how viruses interact with immune cells and uses that knowledge to engineer designer viruses that evoke anti-cancer immunity and improve chimeric antigen receptor, also known as CAR, T-cell therapy of cancer. Doug is also the scientific director of the Action Initiative, which officially launched in spring 2020 in partnership with the Canadian Cancer Society and other local philanthropic support. Action has an ambitious goal of developing innovative next-generation engineered T-cell therapies and delivering them to cancer patients in Alberta and beyond. And again, as Renee mentioned, for those of you that have questions for Dr. Mahoney, please enter those in the chat and we'll try to get to those questions once he's done his presentation. Over to you, Dr. Mahoney.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Renee, and thanks everybody for being here. It's really special to be a part of the WICC breakfast and to be supported by the WICC organization this year and throughout the last 5 years. We couldn't do our work, obviously, without support by organizations like yourselves. So thanks so much for being here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about a part of the action program that I call CAR for Rare, which is Designer Cell Therapy of Rare Cancer. And then after I speak at some point this morning, you're going to hear from Milan Heck, who was introduced earlier as a patient who really was the patient who inspired us in many ways to launch this program within action here at the University of Calgary at the Charbonneau Cancer Institute in partnership with the Children's Hospital Research Institute. So rare cancers are cancers that really that are rare, and you know, there's lots of rare diseases. There's lots of rare cancers, brain cancers and sarcomas, and rare cancers found in a variety of organs. And there's some difficulties in studying rare cancers because it's difficult to get a sample of rare cancers because they're rare. It's difficult to make mouse models or cell models of rare cancers to study treatments that you're trying to make because they're rare. Rare cancers are also in many ways often orphan cancers or orphan diseases. And some of you may or may not have heard the term orphan disease, but an orphan disease is a rare disease for which there is not only no treatment, but in many ways no reasonable expectation that the cost of developing and making available a treatment for such a disease would ever be recovered from the sales of that drug. And so rare diseases, for this reason and for the challenges associated with making treatments for rare diseases, have often been left out of the biotechnology and the commercial sector in terms of therapeutic development. And this is one of the things that really motivated us as an academic initiative, the ACTION program, to perhaps tackle new treatments for some of these rare diseases. As many of you know, you've heard me speak previously on designer cell therapy or CAR T therapy. This is a type of therapy that we work on within the ACTION program, and that is being developed in many labs and many groups across the world. And this is a different type of treatment from chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, where a patient who is eligible for CAR T therapy enters the hospital and their blood is drawn from them. And in that blood are immune cells. And these are the same immune cells that would fight off a virus infection like COVID-19. Some of those cells are called T cells. Those immune cells are purified in a lab like mine, and they are genetically engineered with a novel molecule. This is synthetic biology. And that molecule, in many cases, is what's called a chimeric antigen receptor, or a CAR. And what that molecule does ultimately, without getting into the details, is that it re-educates this T cell, and this T cell is an immune cell that has the capacity to kill things that it doesn't like. It has the capacity, so that chimeric antigen receptor re-educates that T cell to kill a patient's cancer. So a patient's cancer can sometimes look different than their normal cells, but sometimes the cancer figures out ways to hide from the immune system. And ultimately, CAR T therapy is one of many ways in which scientists like me and others across the globe are trying to educate the immune system to see the cancer cell more effectively and kill it more effectively. And this treatment works. So this is not the stuff of science fiction anymore. It was for about 25 years, but it's not any longer. And this is just one example of this treatment working. This is Emily Whitehead. I've shown her picture probably several times at these breakfasts and luncheons over the years. She's now 9 years cancer-free. She was a kid with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She wasn't responding to any of the treatments anymore. She was going to die. She entered a clinical trial for one of the first chimeric antigen receptor T cell therapies, and she survived some reasonably bad side effects from this treatment, and then emerged and is cancer-free 9 years later. No evidence of disease, lives a normal life as a spokesperson for this innovative type of therapy. And this is just one of the success stories and one of the examples where this type of innovative new treatment really works. And this is now approved for use for patients like Emily with certain types of leukemia and lymphoma in Alberta, and being given to our patients at the hospital here in Calgary as of a year ago. So this is really exciting. The treatment doesn't work yet for other types of cancer, or it doesn't work well enough. So Terry Fox had a sarcoma, it's a type of cancer in his bone. Gord Downey, a lead singer of the Tragically Hip, had a brain cancer. And they're for a variety of reasons, their cancers thus far are a little bit more difficult to treat with this new type of therapy, this CAR-T or designer cell therapy. And so it was these things that motivated me and others around me to create the Action Initiative in partnership with WICC, through the Canadian Cancer Society and several other philanthropic organizations. And here's just some pictures of the folks that are involved in this initiative. There's clinicians, there's clinician scientists, there's fundamental scientists like me, there's computational scientists. There's a range of folks that bring their collective expertise to bear on this problem, with a mission of building better treatments for deadly cancers. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. And the way that we're trying to do this is by developing innovations in designer cell therapy, CAR-T and other designer cell therapies for high fatality cancers in children and adults. And you're going to hear Milan's story here shortly, but we were introduced to Milan several years ago as a patient who came into the Children's Hospital 6 years ago with a very rare sarcoma called alveolar soft part sarcoma. And I won't tell her story for her, she'll do that here shortly. But the bottom line is that Milan, one of the things that Milan had done throughout her entire cancer journey was donated her tumor samples as she was getting surgery to our research. And because we had these samples of this very rare cancer, we had an opportunity to ask this question: can we develop a personalized designer cell therapy for Milan, and by extension for other patients like Milan with this rare disease called ASPS, or alveolar soft part sarcoma? And to do that required us to build a novel bench to bedside pipeline for personalized designer cell therapy of rare disease. And I'm not going to take you through all the steps, but I'm going to just show you them to give you a sense of how difficult it is to try and pull something like this off. So for Milan's cancer, we needed to identify something that we wanted to engineer her T cells to target. We needed to validate that in the laboratory. So this is all work that we do in the lab. We needed to build a new molecule, a new chimeric antigen receptor for her, specifically for her, to retarget her immune system against something unique to her cancer. We needed to validate that in many types of experiments in the laboratory, and then do iterations of that to build a molecule that ultimately would work, or potentially work, for Milan in the clinic. We needed to get lots of stakeholder engagement, obviously from Milan, from her clinical team, from national organizations that would be required to enable this type of initiative. Needed to do risk assessment for a variety of things, and then ultimately begin working with Health Canada to get approval to be able to deliver this, a very experimental treatment, to Milan and potentially other patients like her. And once we got the sense from Health Canada that we were going to be allowed to do this, we needed to begin to manufacture this medicine to clinical standard. Of course, I run a research program where we manufacture routinely to non-clinical standard for our research experiments. Manufacturing medicine to clinical standard, as you can imagine, is very difficult, very expensive, and there's only a few places in Canada that can do it. So we needed to set a collaboration with those folks, and we needed to go through the entire process of manufacturing the bits that we needed to engineer her cells, to get approval from Health Canada to do this clinical trial, and then ultimately, at some point in the future, should Milan need this treatment, which the expectation is at some point she will, we need to treat her and then hopefully have a very long follow-up. So those are just some of the key steps, but it's really meant to illustrate that this is a long and difficult process, and in Canada, a process that has never been done before, where an individual patient would come into a research program and a personalized designer therapy would be manufactured specifically for that patient and then brought to that patient in a clinical trial. So it was, really in many ways just the type of initiative and all of the challenges associated with it that excited us. And that we knew that because we had a large institutional program, this action program, we had the possibility of trying to pull off. So I'm going to give you just a little summary of the work that we've done over the last year and a half to build this medicine for Milan, and where we are in this process before handing it over to Milan to tell her story. So we had access to all of Milan's tumor samples over the last 6 years. She had tumors in her leg, in her lung, in her pancreas, in her colon, in her brain. and in her spine. And we were able to identify something very unique on the surface of Milan's cancers, cancer cells, that is not expressed to high level in any of her other tissue in her body. We were able to validate that target in other patient samples who had this rare disease, alveolar soft part sarcoma. We were able to engineer a whole new medicine against this target, validate that medicine in Milan's cells that we were able to culture from her tumor specimens that she donated, and most importantly, in animal models. These are preclinical models that we developed using Milan's own cancer. So again, this is very difficult to do, and it's very rare, where someone like Milan donates a rare cancer that we can then turn into a preclinical or an animal model system so that we can study the therapies that we're building. And I'll just show you one little image here, and I'm not going to take you through any of the details. This is a piece of data, but all I'm going to, it's very obvious what's happening here. You can see that these are images of mice. These mice have Milan's brain cancer, okay? And so you can see the light coming from the brains or the heads of these mice. And essentially that light represents the burden of the tumor that is in this mouse. And all I'm going to show you is these 3 mice over here underneath the red box. And these 3 mice were treated with this medicine, this experimental medicine that we built specifically for Milan. And the 6 mice to the left here were either not treated or treated with a different medicine that was not built specifically to treat Milan. And what you can see is that the tumor goes away when we treat these mice, these tumor-bearing mice, with the medicine for Milan, and the tumor does not go away if we don't treat it or we treat it with a different medicine. And this is just a graph called a survival curve that depicts that these animals that were treated with Milan's medicine are now alive and healthy 200 days after we treated them. So this is just one of many examples where we're able to prove that the medicine that we built, at least in preclinical animal models, does a very good job at treating Milan's own cancer. Now, we had this preclinical data package, and this is what we do really well in our lab. And of course, the real goal is to bring this treatment to Milan. And in many ways, moving from research in the lab to a medicine is very challenging, as you might imagine. We often call this a valley of death. Okay, so here are the researchers over here building medicines. Here are the clinicians who are trying to treat a patient. And so, you know, we were very fortunate that because the medicine that we built and the data that we generated were so strong, and we'd already established some really important collaborations across the country, we were able to create essentially a new solution for bridging that divide for Milan, which we hope will be a template for bridging it for other patients with rare cancers. And again, very briefly, essentially, we had to reach out to colleagues across the country who could do parts of the clinical translation that we weren't able to here. So we were doing all the preclinical research here within the action program in Calgary, but we needed to get bits of the medicine manufactured to clinical standard in Vancouver, other bits of the medicine manufactured to clinical standard in Ottawa. We needed to get those clinical medicines tested to make sure that they were pure and that they were safe in both Ottawa and Montreal. And then once all of that was done, we were able to manufacture the final clinical product for Milan here in Calgary, and do the clinical trial here in Calgary with our clinical trial unit here at the Tom Baker Cancer Center. And so we are partway through this right now. And again, I'll just take you through this very quickly along this clock. This whole process started in January 2021. And this is really meant to give you a sense of how powerful a program like Action, with all of the component parts that we've been able to put in place to enable this type of research through partnership with WICC and other funding organizations, how powerful it is, if, you know, when we put our mind to trying to build something for a particular patient and put all the bits that we have, you know, put together toward that cause. So in January 2021, we came up with this idea and we started this project. Okay, we created what I call a preclinical data package. So some of the data I just showed you, plus many other pieces of data to support what we were doing within 6 months. We engaged key stakeholders like Milan and her clinical team, for example, in September of 2021. We started manufacturing or the work required to get to manufacturing the clinical product in October of 2021 with folks in Vancouver and Ottawa. We had our first Health Canada meeting in November of 2021, in which we got feedback about what we were doing and what we needed to do slightly differently. We started practicing with Milan cells in December of 2021. So this is, again, you know, a very interesting part of the story where Milan has been so engaged in this process that she comes into our lab, she donates her immune cells to us, so that we can actually test her own cells and the efficiency with which we can engineer them and retarget to them against her own cancer in the laboratory. That process started in December of 2021. And then in February of 2022, we get the first bit of that we needed for the clinical product. And here we are now in May of 2022, where we are manufacturing the second bit for the clinical product. And ultimately in July of 2022, we're going to try manufacturing Milan cells as a practice run with the clinical product that we obtained from Ottawa. And if that goes well, which we have no reason to believe that it won't, we'll be applying to Health Canada so that we are ready to prepare Milan cells when she needs them. Now, we don't know exactly when Milan is going to need these cells. Okay, it could be 6 months from now, it could be 5 years from now. It's hard to know, but our goal is to be ready for her when she does need them. And the thing that this has turned into as well is bigger than Milan. Milan is at the center of this story, but it's really bigger than Milan because this is a rare disease, and this is a rare disease initiative, but there are 18 other patients across the country that have this disease. The disease is thought to be terminal. Most patients will need to or be interested in enrolling in experimental clinical trials. And our hope is to be able to build off of this and to provide this treatment for other patients with ASPS in a larger clinical trial in the coming year or so. And we've also realized that in working with Milan and her samples to build a personalized medicine, that this is a pipeline and a sort of a process that we can now initiate with other rare cancers. And we started that as well within the action program: synovial sarcoma, Ewing sarcoma, rhabdomyosarcoma sarcoma, clear cell sarcoma, glioblastoma, brain cancer. And we've put all the pieces in place so that we can do this not just for one person's cancer or one rare disease, but for many rare diseases. And this is really what's happening now within the action program because of your support. The bottom line is that we think that Calgary will become a destination, not only for this type of research, which we already are, but in some ways we're hoping for patients to come with certain rare diseases to be able to enroll in experimental clinical trials of designer cell therapy that were manufactured specifically for them or their rare disease, just like Milan's. And with that, I'll say thank you very much. Of course, as I mentioned, this work could not be done without the support of WICC, without the support of the Canadian Cancer Society and many other philanthropic groups. You know, I told you that our team comprises clinicians and scientists and computational scientists. It also comprises, the way I see it, patients, their teams, and the community, you folks and many others. So we are a team. We couldn't do this in isolation, and I'm super appreciative of all the support that WICC and the Canadian Cancer Society has given to this initiative over the last 5 years.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahoney, for all your amazing work that you bring to the important cancer treatment in Alberta, as well as Canada and the world. We're now going to hear from Milan Heck, who will speak to her cancer journey and how it's brought her to her work both as a biomedical science student and a lab worker. Milan, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee. So hello and good morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Milan, and it's a huge pleasure and honor to be part of the second annual WICC Breakfast webinar. I'll apologize quickly in advance for my voice. I'm a little congested, but I hope you guys will be able to bear with me. I'm currently 20 years old, and as mentioned, this fall I'll be entering the final year of my degree in biomedical sciences at the University of Calgary. My cancer journey began when I was 14 years old, right as I was starting the 9th grade. I had a painless lump on the right side of my hip that persisted for months, so naturally I went to get it checked. My family and I could have never imagined what that appointment would have entailed for us, and that was the day that cancer became a part of my life. To say that we were shocked would be a massive understatement. From that point on, my life became a whirlwind, and I was introduced to my extensive healthcare team at the Children's Hospital and underwent imaging for the rest of my body. It was even harder to find out that the cancer had also spread to both of my lungs and my brain. I learned that it was a rare type of tissue cancer called alveolar soft part sarcoma, or ASPS. This condition comprises less than 1% of all sarcomas, and the treatments that were available to me at the time were quite scarce. Obviously, learning that you have cancer is incredibly hard as it is, so coupling it with the fact that I had very limited treatment options felt next to devastating. Surgery was essentially the only option that I had, so I underwent a resection and reconstruction on my hip and a lung resection within months of my initial diagnosis. I also underwent radiation therapy for the lesion in my brain, but ultimately it was not effective, and I underwent a resection for that as well. Since my diagnosis nearly 7 years ago, I've had to have approximately 10 major surgeries, as this cancer would ultimately spread twice to my spine, to my pancreas, my small intestine, with additional resections being required for recurrences in my lungs and brain. In this span of time, I had also tried radiation and inhibitor drugs, neither of which proved to be effective. As time went on, it became clear that my condition was becoming increasingly unpredictable. I was still having recurrences 6 years after cancer became a part of my life, and it hasn't felt like it slowed down. Although there are currently no signs of cancer in my body as of my scans last month, this is still a weight that will follow me for the rest of my life. There's really only so much surgery one person's body can handle, and there could be a day where I'll find myself with a tumor that is inoperable. Even in the surgeries that I've previously had, the potential risks have been substantial. There were times where I was put under, knowing there was a possibility I could wake up with vision impairment, cognitive defect, paralysis, or perhaps not waking up at all. I'll always have to live with the possibility of going through treatment again, which is why this project led by Dr. Mahoney has meant so much to me and to the future of other patients with ASPS. After my first few surgeries, I was contacted by the tumor bank and asked if I would be interested in donating my samples. They explained that this tissue could be valuable in research and making advancements to the limited treatments available to ASPS patients. I agreed, I signed the consent form, and I never could have imagined that it would have resulted in an initiative as big as this. My involvement in this project and watching it as the developments have unfolded has been nothing short of amazing. When illness has been a part of your life for so long, it can be hard to find things that give you hope. Especially in my cancer journey, where the prognosis and treatments have been so poor, knowing that we're so close to achieving something that could potentially save my life has meant so much to me. Not only me personally, but other sarcoma patients, our families, and our community. This project has meant hope, it's meant overcoming adversity, and more than anything, it has meant a second chance for me to thrive and achieve all that I can in my life. So thank you so much for allowing me to share my story with you all, and I would now like to hand it back over to Renee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milan. Personally touched by your story, and thank you for sharing today. So happy that WICC is able to support the research that's been able to help you. Now I need a moment, sorry. Once again, a huge hooray to our gold sponsors for leading the pack today with the support to ensure that our doctors have funds to support this amazing research that we just heard about and the continued breakthroughs that will continue to change the face of cancer in the future. Marsh, Intact, and again, Canadian Underwriter, thank you so much for hosting today.
And a big hooray, hooray to our silver sponsors for their generosity. The Insurance Professionals of Calgary, SGI Canada, once again, supporting us at all of our events. We appreciate it so much. And Willis Canada Inc., a new sponsor at this level. And I just want to go off script and say, for those of you that were just as touched by Milan's story as myself and Renee, please donate. There's still time. And if you think that your company would like to sponsor us, there's still time for that too. We'll be promoting this event on our social media. So please reach out. We'd appreciate it.
And a hooray, hooray to our bronze sponsors, Canoe Financial, Gallagher Insurance, Northbridge Insurance, and Wawanesa Insurance. Thank you for making today a reality. Well, I'm on my last cup of coffee, and this means that we're nearing the end of our day. But before we go, we wanted to share with you some upcoming events that will be supporting WICC. There's a couple of golf tournaments to watch, so please keep your eye on our social media. We've got some details on the next Edmonton golf tournament as well that we'll be promoting on our social media. Our next event after that will be the Relay for Life. Do you want to flip through the slides there for me, Jen?
Yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you.
Mike. Yes.
As per last year, this is a live event. This is how we roll. As per our last year, this is a national event that will be held virtually for the second year in a row. So you'll have more information on our social media as well, but our Alberta chapter is working hard to get everything going. We'll have information on our website as well as an email blast to our friends of WICC on how to sign up. You'll be able to join that WICC Alberta team that's known as the WICC Alberta Rocky Mountaineers, or sign up a team of your own. We always encourage healthy competition, so why not challenge your national offices or even your competitors to see who can raise the most money per participant. Again, all the funds raised when signed up through the Alberta chapter go to support this wonderful action initiative. And we're excited to announce, back after a couple years break, is the ever popular All Industry Stampede Party. We are so grateful to Diana Adams and Alberta Fire and Flood for once again organizing this amazing event to support WICC. Mark your calendars. On Thursday, July 7th at the Bitter Sisters Brew Pub from 3:30 till 9, we'll kick off Stampede and support WICC. And in 2020, we initiated the Christmas Wishes for WICC campaign. It was a great success thanks to all the companies that contributed to the cause. We were able to raise $30,000, just over $30,000 in our first year and $30,000 again in our second year. And in 2022, we're hoping to match or beat this. And Giving Tuesday is for our individual contributors. As mentioned, WICC Alberta is a leader with all the champions. So if you have funds left after that Black Friday shopping, please remember that the Tuesday after is a great day to give back to a great cause. So again, watch our social media for details about these upcoming events. And we're always open. If you're aware of any upcoming event, whether it be a golf tournament, stampede party, big or small, or anything else that the charity of choice could be WICC Alberta, we would love to have your support and promote you on our social media.
After hearing from Michael and how he's doing 19 years after his cancer journey began, we'll now hear from his mother, Julie Mancini.
Hi, I'd like to welcome my sister now, Julie Mancini. Hi, everyone. Julie is obviously Michael's mom, and she's just going to give us a little bit of an update on how things have progressed for her over the years following Michael's diagnosis and cancer-free diagnosis. So Julie, thanks again for doing this with us today. You were Michael's primary caregiver pretty much his whole entire life. Yes. And so how things have changed for you since he's turned 18 even?
Well, things actually started changing when Michael turned 14. When you're in your teenage years, the child actually has the ability to have the parent out of the room when the doctor comes in. So we've been prepping for this since he was about 14. Now that he's turned 18, he's moved from pediatric care over to the adult side. And that's a bit complicated because we've got all the ologies on speed dial, so it's been hard to learn who all our new players are.
Right. And just to be so that people are aware, so even though Michael was declared cancer-free at the age of 7, there were still multiple doctor appointments that you still had to go throughout the whole years, and maybe give us a little update as to why that happened.
Well, specific to his treatment, and we're not sure, some of it is caused from chemotherapy, some of it is caused from radiation, but it had lingering effects on his cardiac and his respiratory. So he's got a cardiologist, he's also got a respirologist. In terms of cardiology, he's on medication that, the best analogy that I can give you is compare it to a vehicle. When a vehicle hits 200,000 kilometers, it's considered to be old. Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to slow the beats down on Michael's heart so that we don't hit that 200,000 kilometer platform sooner. So we're slowing his heartbeat, but at the same time we're introducing another medication so that the beat itself is strong. So it's very intricate. Right. And he gets followed quite closely by a cardiologist. Equally, he gets followed by a respirologist as he's got underlying lung disease.
Oh, okay.
On top of that, he's small in stature, so we've got an endocrinologist. I've laughed over the years that I've got all the ologies on speed dial. But now we're learning all of the new ologies because we've dived into adult care.
Right. And so with his adult care, will he continue that kind of focus on his health with going to see these continual doctors on a yearly basis, biannual basis? Like, what does that look like for him?
Yes, he'll definitely continue with all of these ologies for his lifespan. Presently, we're looking at annually.
Okay.
Cardiology, I could see moving up to biannually, dependent on if his MRI shows fluctuation in some of their measurements.
Cool. And so, like, you know, outside of all of the medical going back and forth or whatever, for you personally, what has changed? Like, how do you feel now that, you know, Michael is 19 now and going through to these new doctors at the foothills?
She asks the hard questions, doesn't she? What has changed? As a mom of a survivor, that was a role for me for a lot of years. And you need to figure out how to balance your care, your child's care, your family's care, and not one of them can falter because they're all equally important. So learning to put yourself first is definitely hard. On the flip side, now that Michael's 18, teaching him all of his responsibilities, like for a while now, I've been getting him to call the pharmacy and reorder his own prescriptions and set up his meds on Sunday mornings for the week or for the 2 weeks that are following. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's not something that a normal 19-year-old should have to do.
Right.
So finding that balance,
right,
I'd say that's where the struggle is.
No, and that's really great. And thank you for sharing that. If you had one thing that you would like to say to everybody who's watching us here today, what would it be?
God, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for donating. When Michael was diagnosed at age 10 months, his likelihood of survival was 50-50. When he relapsed, it was 60-40, and that wasn't in our favor. I'm happy to say that the success ratio today is much greater, and that's due to research, that's due to fundraising, that's due to charitable organizations much like these who dig down. So if I had anything to say, it'd be thank you. You gave us back our son.
Thanks. Well, that kind of got the tears going a
I know,
little
I'm
bit.
sorry, I
It's
didn't mean
okay.
to.
But you know what? We end on a happy note. Michael is well today. He's doing well. You're doing well, and that's fantastic. Our family is doing well. So I'd like to thank Michael again for being with us today, and go down to the Cactus Club and, you know, order something there, and maybe Michael will cook it for you. So,
Or bring it out.
or bring it out to you. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Renee, I think you might be muted.
Thanks, Jen. 2 years in the pandemic, you think we'd have it. So touched my heart. Thank you to the Mancini family for sharing their story with us today. And as mentioned, WICC is a national charity, and we've got chapters in Ontario, Quebec, and BC. We also have sponsors that support us annually on a national level. So we just wanted to take a minute to recognize these partners for all their support and contributions to all of our WICC chapters.
And again, a reminder that the donation page is still open. If you can donate, please help us to continue to support the Action Initiative. Just search WICC Alberta Breakfast in your browser and you should find our page. And again, remember to select the Alberta chapter once you get to that page.
And as we're closing out, WICC is always looking for champions, and we want you. And what is a champion? It means representing WICC within your office and within your network. We need you to take up our cause and find new and creative ways to help us raise funds and awareness for this great cause. The champion role involves supporting our events through ticket sales, sponsorship and volunteering, and even hosting an event that raises money for WICC at least once a year. It could be anything from a jean sale all the way to a golf tournament and anything in between. And if you need any assistance in planning an event, the WICC board is always there to support you. If you're interested in being a champion, please reach out to Shannon McMurtry or anyone on the board and we'll get you set up.
And once again, we want to thank all of our sponsors for today's event. We cannot thank you enough for your generosity. We hope that you are inspired after today's breakfast at the impact that your donations make on the cancer research happening here in Alberta, and more importantly, on the lives of cancer patients and survivors. I was just curious, do we have any questions in the chat before we close out?
There are no questions at this point.
All right. Well then, on that note, how's your coffee doing, Renee?
Well, I've got one sip left, so I'm almost out. So that must mean that we're at the end of today's event.
Well, it's been fabulous to have you all attend this morning. And one last time, we do want to thank our sponsors. For any of your colleagues that were unable to make today's event, we have recorded this and we'll be putting it up on our website and, if possible, our social media. So please look out for that. Your donations today have helped to make a difference and help drive the research and breakthroughs that Dr. Mahoney and his team are leading. So your impact is significant.
So to close out, let's raise our coffee. Last couple sips that are in there, give a salute to all of the sponsors and especially all of you for attending today. Thank you for coming to learn more about the Action Initiative, as well as WICC Alberta and the work that we do together.
Yes, and once again, I'm pounding on this point. Thanks to those that have already contributed, those that sent in funds during today's event through the donation page, and it will remain open. And so there's still time for others to donate or for you to donate. So again, reach out for our, look out for that donation link. So again, to conclude, life is bigger than cancer and community is bigger than cancer. And together we make a difference. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, I got a bolt